Welcome to the Writing with Purpose podcast, where I, Anna Woolliscroft, chat with fellow writers and outdoor enthusiasts about how we can embrace creativity and curiosity to live a life full of adventure that doesn't feel like hard work. I delve into exploratory conversations about my two loves in life, writing and nature connection, as part of my mission to share the well-being benefits they both bring. It's wonderful to have you here today. On today's Writing with Purpose podcast, I'm chatting with writer and story coach Claire Tomkins about writing novels, running, and getting in touch with your core purpose. Hi, Claire. Thank you very much for agreeing to join me on this podcast, which is all about really talking to like-minded people that have a love for the great outdoors, Mother Nature, a fellow creative, also, being attracted to sort of exercise in some way, shape or form. And so welcome, Claire, from Five Rubies. Did I get that right? Five Rubies?
Yes, thank you.
You are a writer, a story coach, and I think, have you self-confessed writing geek? Word geek, is it?
Yes, that's right. I'm all about the words.
And you've got quite a story, haven't you? Because I usually ask people about how you stay creative and what are your sort of creativity generating tools, if you like. But you had a dream, didn't you, which was a big part of your creative story?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So strangely enough, when I was a child, I would use the words "I'm not a very creative person," which is almost laughable now, really, given what a big part it is of my life and what I love. One of my personal values is creativity, unsurprisingly, because I know that, well, not only are we all creative, but for me particularly, I know that when I'm creative, that's me really at my best. So
alignment.
Yeah, absolutely. But I trained as a lawyer. That's sort of my background in terms of education and career and that type of thing. And in terms of the business, I'm a spiritual person. I believe in a higher being, a God, and the business name Five Rubies came from a kind of just a sort of a vision or a sense that I had when I was a teenager, that I would be given, if you like, 5 things to care for and nurture, precious things in my life, and that included my husband and my children, but also my work. And when I was a lawyer, I guess I never really understood that. I enjoyed my job, but I wasn't really passionate about it. I was like, I didn't understand how to kind of nurture that. And
you have that sort of feeling that there was perhaps something missing.
Yeah, I think that's right.
All to it.
Yeah. And then I can't quite remember how or why, but I decided I wanted to start writing and write a novel. And then a few things happened that then kind of led to this idea for the business. And I understand that's why I called it Five Rubies, because I thought I found that sort of passion. And that, my stories and other people's stories are so precious. So that's my ruby now. That's what I nurture and I care for. So,
it's a great story, and I think that happens to so many of us. We do something that we love. We train for something as a career, but then at a certain point, with this, it's not fulfilling anymore. You do a good job, great on some level, but I think there's just something that kind of tugs at you a little bit. And I think you, for your business, you sort of saying that you work with heart-led entrepreneurs and leaders, and I think for me, that's those people that have that something missing as well, and which I suppose could help them to find the words to explain that in what they do as well with the story coaching.
Yeah. In fact, a client summed it up for me beautifully a little while ago, and they said, we've got all the feelings, we just don't have the words.
Mm.
I was like, I love that, because it's like you have this sense of what your message might be inside your heart, you know, got all those feelings about who you want to work with, or who you want to help, or who you want to lead. You just can't quite express those feelings in words. And that's my favorite part of working with people.
And do you find that when you talk to people, because I've had in the past when I, as a copywriter writing for people, they say, "Oh, you just seem to be able to get into my head and pull out words."
Yeah.
And with a number of projects recently, I've held a Zoom meeting and I've asked a series of questions, and I've sort of interviewed the person. And quite often I've found that in a roundabout way, they've got the words.
Yes.
In how they talk. It's just sort of, I suppose, breaking that down a little bit, making it a little bit more succinct, and having a key message, if you like, to sum everything up.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And one of my favorite things is to just listen, write down a few notes, and then just play those words back to that person.
Yeah.
And more often than not, they'll go, "Oh, that sounds good. I like those words." I said, "That's because they're your words." I've just teased them out of you and made sense of them a bit, and you know, and that's lovely. You're absolutely right. The words are there.
Yeah, and it sounds authentic.
Yeah,
because it is there. And I quite often I read some things that I've written, you know, a few months back, not so much a few years back, because I think I've improved massively myself. But and I read back and I go, "Well, that's good," and then I realize, "Why am I?"
Yes, I'm glad I'm not the only one who does that.
Yeah,
I write that. I don't.
Yeah,
yes, I do.
That. But I think that comes back to what you said right at the start about you never considered yourself as a creative person when you were younger, and a lot of people still now, you know, but think that they're not creative. But you don't have to paint or draw or write in order to be creative. Problem solving is a form of being creative. You know, sitting down and organising something and playing with the kids at the weekend is being creative. Baking something in the kitchen is being creative. So I think sometimes there's a misunderstanding of what creative means to people.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking about this yesterday, actually, thinking my children are a great example of this. So my middle daughter is more typically creative. So she loves creating things with her hands, drawing, you know. We went to see a musical at the weekend. She made us all bracelets, all, you know, color coordinated, all that kind of thing.
Nice.
So she is classically creative in that sense of the word. My son is creative in a very different way. He's a sportsman, so he will spend hours perfecting his spin bowling, for example. You know, thinking about the best way to play the game, problem solving, like you've said. And they are creative in different ways, of course.
Yeah.
And then the younger one is different again. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think intrinsically we are wired to be creative beings, aren't we? To solve problems. And I like to describe it as we have the ability to see the potential for beauty in something, or in a situation, or in a place. And that's what creativity means, I think.
What's your earliest memory of writing, or reading, or sort of having a love for language?
Yeah, I love this question, Anna. I was saying to Anna just before we started recording that she sent me some lovely questions, and I really enjoyed making some notes on them. So earliest memories, one of them, of course, and I do talk about this from time to time in my content, is reading books in our magnolia tree. And I just loved that kind of being able to escape into a slightly magical place, both physically in the tree and then also through the books that I was reading.
Yeah.
Where
you go to.
Yeah. And I remember writing a poem when I was poorly in bed with the flu about vitamin C. I'd completely forgotten about that. It was called Ode to Vitamin C, and I was like, I wished I still had it, you know.
Yeah. There's all those birthday cards, isn't there, that start off an ode to.
Yeah.
Could have been one of the series.
Yeah. My parents are very into sort of vitamins and holistic and healthy eating, that type of thing. So we ate a lot of vitamins as children. So I wrote a poem about that.
Great stories.
So, yeah.
And I've got such a vision now of, you as a small girl climbing up into this magnolia tree with pen and a paper, or your reading book, whatever you were reading at the time, just getting lost. And it's almost like going into another world.
Yeah, and the tree's still there because I went down a little trip down memory lane a couple of months ago for some book research, and it's still there.
You've made a living really out of writing, and that's writing stories, your own stories, which we'll come on to in shortly, but also helping other people to be able to tell their stories. So what does writing actually mean to you?
Well, I think I've discovered over the past probably 10 years since I've been writing more consistently and seriously that it's life-giving, really. And I do lots of different writing, like you've alluded to. So I'm writing a novel. I write for clients in different sort of formats. I journal. I write content for my own business and help people with their content as well. And really, it's the thing that feeds me. It's that kind of non-negotiable thing. And I think most people have something like this in their life. That there's a book called The One Thing. I can't remember who wrote it now, but that the author talks about that one thing that actually makes everything else easier in your life. And for me, it's writing. And that looks very different in different situations. But I find that if I start my day with coffee, which is also non-negotiable, and a bit of journaling, then the rest of the day is much better. So
it is. And I suppose if we jump a little bit to what you said there about journaling and starting the day, so do you write, do you do the morning pages, sort of that stream of consciousness in the morning, or is it sort of a different technique? Because I journal as well. A lot of my journals have changed over time, or how I journal, should I say. And at the moment, a lot of it is more around dream journaling, because I think it's fascinating to see, what your subconscious is trying to tell you almost in a dream. Well, that's how I perceive that anyway. Gratitude journaling, but there's so many different types, isn't there? So what sort of journaling do you navigate to?
It's quite sort of informal and loose, really. And it may not happen every day. And I think sometimes I'll use a prompt. More often than not, it's just what's going on in my head. And I don't know about you, but I often wake up in the morning and depending on the day ahead, my head is just buzzing with stuff that's going on, and it's so busy. And sometimes just getting those thoughts out on the page just really helps me to kind of slow down, just reflect, just kind of order my thoughts. So sometimes it's that, sometimes it might be something I've read from a book, or it might be I've read a bit from the Bible, or something that stood out to me, or a particular word. Sometimes I think that's interesting. I wonder why that stood out to me. Let's be curious and explore that. So and the thing that I particularly love about journaling actually is it surprises me. It sounds so odd to many people, but something magical happens when you put pen to paper, and often what comes out through the pen is not what I expect. So
I think that is you what you've just described there is spot on, because for me, this is sort of my way of describing that you almost don't think too much about what it is that you're writing, so it just flows. So it's without logic, it's without rationality, and it's just whatever's going on. And I love the fact that sometimes you just have a word and you're curious about a word. Because I do the same thing if I go outside, I see something and then I get really curious, and then that's what prompts me to then write something. So I've usually got this is my current one, but I've usually got just a little notebook that I take everywhere with me, and I just write little sentences.
Yeah.
Like that. And so when I spot these nuances somewhere, that might be inspiration for something that I'm writing, or
Yeah.
just meaningful to me.
Nice. Yeah. Here's my current journal.
Oh, that's nice.
It's a particularly beautiful one, actually. Yeah, I will be very sad when I've filled this one. Yeah.
Let me ask you something based on that then, because I was listening to something the other day, and she was, or was I reading something? Anyway, she was saying that part of the problem as to why people don't continue with journaling, and I don't do it every day either. I think that's something important to say. You don't have to do it every day, because sometimes people beat themselves up if they don't do it every day. But she was saying just get a load of loose scrap paper and write down, because if you've got something that's really beautiful and really fancy, it puts people off because they don't want to swear it.
It's so true. It's absolutely true. And I love notebooks so much. I'm holding another one here, look, which is there's a different purpose. This is my kind of worky notebook. No, she's absolutely right. But of course, you can't spoil a notebook, can you? That's what it's there for. And actually, the thoughts that you put down inside it are far more beautiful than the notebook.
Yes.
And one thing I find really helpful, actually, and I do this with clients, I get clients to do quite a lot of journaling in sessions, which for some people they love, and other people are a bit like, oh, a bit different. But I'll say, so I'm literally just going to give you 2 minutes. That's all you have. Don't overthink it. Just pick up your pen and just write whatever comes out. So don't worry about nice sentences. It's just a random jumble of words. That's absolutely fine. So it's that kind of getting away from that fear of the blank page, isn't it?
Just start with something, and that's lead to something else and something else.
And the blank page does not judge you. You know, these are your words. I've often written in my journal, particularly if I've not journaled for quite a long time for various reasons, just have this lovely sense when I open my journal that it's just, if it could speak to me, it would just say, it's nice to see you.
Yeah.
There's no kind of like, where have you been? And
those probing questions that you on the spot a little bit. That's a great way. It's just there when you need it.
Yeah, definitely.
Kindness within a page.
Yes.
Please that it can say. That's a beautiful way to put it. So if we can then move on, because you're a runner, aren't you? You outside and stay active, and so nature is a big part of your life as well as mine. And I love it when I talk to people that have got those two sort of same passions as me, because I can talk to people. I can talk to you forever. So tell me a little bit about what the great outdoors means to you, and what part does sort of connecting with nature play in your life? How's it sort of supported you over the years? Magnolia tree maybe being the start of it, but since then.
It's funny, isn't it? Because when I was making notes on this yesterday, I was noticing that actually I grew up in the countryside, so I was really fortunate. I grew up in this little village, and most of my happiest times were outdoors. It's funny how you don't really appreciate that at the time. The sort of the greatest adventures I had were going off on my bike without a helmet, because wear helmets, did we, back in those days? And getting lost and terrifying my mother probably, but the best things often happen outdoors, don't they? But I think particularly as my life has got busier in adulthood, I think I have to be much more intentional about it now. And running has played a really big part in that. So I started running about 10 years ago. Again, never saw myself as a kind of running fit type person at all. At school, absolutely hated it. Many people did. And that, when I first started running, I barely run to the end of the road. I was really, really unfit. And yet, when I went through a really difficult time with my mental well-being, probably about 5 years ago, it really was running and writing, were two very key things that really helped me. And of course, you run outside for the most part, apart from, when it's super, super hot, or you might run on the treadmill. So, yeah, I think in a similar way to writing, really, being outside and exercising is often, I find it very restorative. It helps me, it soothes me, helps me slow down, and sort of calm my nervous system.
Yeah. And it's amazing how therapeutic it is. Even though to, the observer, particularly with running, it's very energetic and you might look absolutely shattered and out of but it's amazing how much energy that gives you, in particular afterwards. Do you ever find that you go out running, or it could be walking, and you've sort of got an idea that's mulling or something that you might need to be thinking about, and then by the time you've been outside and you've ran, you've kind of got answers, or at least inspiration to and put that into your writing?
Absolutely. And more than that, I read a post on LinkedIn the other week, and this guy was saying he takes his ideas for a walk along the beach. I was like, yes, I do that too. I'm so glad you said that. And there's something about if I in the past, if I've had like a real knotty sort of problem with a plot and I just can't work out what happens next, I take it for a walk, and there's something about the physical act of walking, like putting one foot in front of the other, that unlocks something in your head that enables your head to do the same, and kind of just literally walk through something, and just I talk it over in my head, and I love being we live in Nottingham, which is basically right in the middle of the UK, nowhere near the sea. But whenever we are by the sea, like on holiday, I find that so inspiring, and I remember times where I walked along the beach and just plotted stuff out in my head or worked through ideas. And there's something, isn't there, about particularly being barefoot on the sand. You're so close to completely like earth at its best.
I need to get I need to do that a little bit more. I my feet are a bit sensitive, but I think that's my mind telling my feet are a bit sensitive. I'm not used to taking I say that I've got no shoes on at the moment, but to walk outside, my partner's daughter, she's always got either just socks or no socks and shoes on. Running around the garden and then around the path and everything, and I say, please put some shoes on.
I did
worried about feet, but that comes from me, because I worry about my feet. The shop. But having said that, though, something's just popped into my mind. I have walked on glass before in hot coals.
Have you?
It's definitely a mindset thing.
Yeah. Crikey. Sand is a bit friendlier.
Next time I go to the beach, I will take a leaf out of your book and actually take my ideas on a barefoot walk.
Yeah.
I think a couple of things there from what you said, going down to the beach is change of scenery as well, isn't it? From being, Nottingham's a big city as well. I know there's a lot of greenery spaces and that around too, but it's a completely different setting, which sometimes I think helps to free people's minds. I always try and encourage that with people, to just step outside of the office. Even if you don't enjoy walking or you don't like going outside, go to a coffee shop or something, so that you just have a change of scenery. And I think that's quite expansive in your thinking too. So, outside just removes all barriers around you. You can be expansive, and it just helps things to flow.
Absolutely. And this is slightly different, but it's great for conversations, isn't it? Walking outside. A lot of coaches do this, and I can see why. So A, you're outside, and B, you're walking side by side, and it's just more conducive to better conversation.
Instead of facing someone where there's a bit more of that. I know that doesn't happen in the coaching setting, but that sort of perception of being judgmental or conflict, that you're directly in front of Like, I wonder if that stems from ancient times and battles,
Yes.
somebody,
Yeah.
there's something there.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
should be curious about that now.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
There's something you can go and Google.
Exactly. Yeah. You said before that you're writing a novel. How do you sort of how do you get over things like writer's blocks and that? You said that you go out for, a walk and that just seems to unravel plots and things like that. But if there's anyone's listening or watching that sort of, has got that as a goal, or maybe they're a little bit stuck because, writers, they do get stuck. Is there any other sort of inspiration or, I guess, ideas that you can share with people to help with? I mean, writer's blocks, I think, are just limiting beliefs, really, that we can't do something or something's not working. And
yeah. Gosh, it's a journey, that's for sure. I was reflecting on kind of what my biggest limiting beliefs have been through writing. I've been writing this novel for a really long time because life has happened in between. I think my biggest challenge around my writing, and this is more, it affects me more with my fiction creative writing and less with my other types of writing like content and blogging, that type of thing. I seem to be a bit freer there. It's an interesting one. Maybe I should explore that a little bit more.
Is it more than just the length, perhaps?
Yeah, I think it is. I think I hold it a little bit more lightly, actually. But with my novel, the biggest thing that holds me back, is this little perfectionist tendency that creeps in. I don't know whether you're familiar with the Enneagram, or anyone listening might be, but I'm a type.
I have come into contact with that.
Yeah, it's super helpful tool. And I have a one streak, a one wing, which is perfectionist. And alongside that comes this lovely sense of fear of, what if it's not good enough? What if I'm getting it wrong? What if I make a mistake? So it's kind of a part of it is choosing to step away from that and just getting really clear on what does good enough look like for me. Let's get really specific about that. So that's been helpful.
And framing that what if. Saying, well, what if it was a huge success? Or what if such and such a person picked it up and, commented to me about it over social media?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really interesting. I now read like a writer, which is, I spoil myself as a reader now. But I will, this is really sad, I spot typos in books sometimes. Normal people don't do that, do they?
I don't think so. Well, not to the extent, because do you have to pick up repetitive words?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Honestly, it's terrible. And
it does spoil the book sometimes.
Yeah. And part of me is like, actually, if it's a good enough story, it doesn't matter. It's good. Again, it comes back to the phrase "good enough," doesn't it? So that is a challenge for me, and I think the other biggest challenge is the kind of the overwhelm will. So I'm on draft 3 of my novel, and it's 90,000 words. It's too long, but it's like a big forest of trees that I have to navigate through.
You got to edit it down then for
And I, because it's my first book as well, I've made all the mistakes in the book. It's been a huge learning curve, which is great, but it means it's very messy and needs a lot of work. So that's fine. So for me, it's just that old classic of breaking it down to really, really small steps and trying to kind of have the end goal in sight and in mind to keep me motivated, but also really appreciate what I'm learning along the way. And knowing, like you touched on, Anna, that you every time you write, you're becoming a better writer, and it's getting better. You're honing your craft, and it's fun. As well. So
how that process makes you feel as you do it as well, and there might be edits and things that you need to do, but think about how much you've enjoyed the whole process to date, and look how far you've come. It's celebrating what you've done to date as well, isn't it? I mean, 95 words is a lot of words.
Yes, it is a lot of words.
Some people just would that would be an excuse for some people not to start, or not an excuse, reason for them not to start.
Too
big. So you've got a good problem on your hands that you've got to edit it back.
And the mindset piece is really, really important, because I've done a lot of work on my mindset and became really self-aware, particularly in the context of my writing. And I remember a coach saying to me, how different do you feel if you approach your writing session with a sense of like, oh my word, this is going to be really hard and I can't do this, it's too much. So what I often say to myself, it's too much. She says, what difference would it make if you approached it going, this is going to be fun, let's just do half an hour and let's just enjoy it, and let's hold it as lightly as we can, which is, I find, super helpful. Just actually
much better way to
and then it makes it a better experience for you as the writer, and it means you'll want to show up and do it again. So
once you've done it once and you've gone through that and you find it enjoyable, then that's the feeling that you can carry with it to the next time you come to it. Definitely,
absolutely.
You have to let us know when you've edited it down, or whenever it's available to purchase, because it's your novel, isn't it?
It is. It's for teenagers. It's kind of fantasy dystopia. It's great fun. There's loads of fight scenes and flying around and magic and nonsense, and I just not making it all up as I go along.
That's creativity. Well, it's been fascinating talking to you, Claire. Thank you.
It's been lovely. Thank you.
Enjoyed it. So we'll include this in the show notes afterwards, but how can people get in touch with you if people want to find out more about the coaching or any aspect of what you do, sign up to a list for when the novel is released, or just simply to sort of connect with you? Where can we find you?
Great, thank you. So I have a website which is just 5rubies.co.uk. It's a work in progress, my website, but there's some stuff on there, including a blog that I try to write once a month, and I've got an email newsletter too, so do kind of have a look over there. I'm also all over social media, so on Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn, I'm there just as me, Claire Tomkins, and then on Facebook and Instagram I'm on there as 5rubies as well. So do feel free to connect with me. But I particularly enjoy LinkedIn, so please send me a message on there if you would like to and connect with me. I love engaging with other people and learning and contributing to that kind of creative community on there. So
we can all feed each other in that sense.
If we
have a question or a thought, then it's great to hear what other people think about a subject. And you quite often put posts on like that, which make people think a little bit, reflect on some things. So
oh, good,
brilliant. Well, thank you very much again. We shall stay in touch, and thank
you, Anna. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to today's Writing with Purpose podcast. Having conversations with fellow writers or adventure enthusiasts brings two of my biggest loves in life together: writing and nature connection. I've been a copywriter and content creator for 23 years, but my passion is writing for well-being, and I'm on a mission to share the benefits that putting pen to paper has for personal wellness with as many people as possible. If you want to learn more about writing for your well-being and journaling techniques, please connect with me in my Facebook group, Journaling with Anna.